Earlier today, the grand jury declined to return an indictment in this case. Now that the local investigation has concluded, I'm here to announce that the Justice Department will proceed with a federal civil rights investigation into Mr. Garner's death.
The book and movie about his time as a New York City police officer shocked many and cost him his career, but it did nothing to stop his constant cry for real justice and a policing culture that has been in dire need of change to keep both officer and citizen safe and trusting in one another. It's a pleasure to welcome to MidPoint the man who refused to knuckle under to a corrupt system and still stands for those cops who get it right every day. Frank Serpico joins us. Frank, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Frank, you wrote in the New York Daily News just the other day that cops are crying wolf all the time, and what's happening today in the performance of some officers can only be described as sheer cowardice. How did we get here where the cops, in your opinion, are able to do that and get away with it?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's, police officers are crying wolf all the time. Sometimes there are cases where deadly force is required. But how did we get here? The police department, the New York City Police Department, where I have my experience, but just before my day, I would hear about it as a young police officer that the police had a goon squad, they were called, and they would just go around and beat up people, that were on corners or whatever. When I was a social worker, I worked for the New York City Youth Board before I became a police officer, and I hung out with kids on street gangs, and we'd be standing on the corner, and the cops would always come and chase us away, and I would engage the police officers, and I said, we're not doing nothing. I'm a youth worker. I'm trying to keep the kids out of trouble. But, other than police brutality, I like to say it's a police mentality. And you say, how did we get here?
How do we change it, I guess, Frank, might even be a better idea at this point. Getting here is one thing now, but how do we change it? It's not as if we have a long time to do this. We got to do this now.
Well, that's why it behooves our leaders, to lay aside their individual. I want to say that
their individual agenda.
Thank you. And also, some of the media shares the blame too. They look sometimes for controversy rather than solutions. I.e., they have this Mark Furman, speaking on television like he's some kind of expert. The guy's a convicted felon. He was convicted for perjury. He's the L.A. police detective, and you have him on talking about these issues. It's ridiculous.
So are there then members of the left, I guess, who are using this to their agenda, Frank?
Most likely. But anyway, getting back, the problem is, and I've always said, people always ask me, they say, what's the ratio of good cops to bad cops? And even Michael Armstrong, who was with the Knapp Commission investigator, he just wrote a book called They Wish They Were Honest. And he quoted me as saying 10% were totally honest, 10% were totally corrupt, and the other 80% wish they were honest. But the problem is that, whether it's 1 or 100, police officers can act with impunity among their fellow officers without any fear of, you're a police officer. You've sworn to uphold the law. If you see, a police officer committing a crime, why don't you arrest them?
I got about 20 seconds here, Frank, but we're right where you were back before the Knapp Commission. Peer pressure, it sounds like.
Well, that's exactly correct. And as I'm writing in an article that it's 42 years later, and you have to ask, when was a police officer indicted for killing an unarmed man, and when was a police officer rewarded for reporting corruption in the ranks.
And that, of
And that's
course,
the problem.
is the same thing you faced back then. It hasn't changed much. Frank Serpico, thanks so much for your time. I'll look forward to the next time we speak.
You're welcome.
All right, other side of the break, another facet of society that remains in dire need of cleaning out. Publicity-seeking media who get the story wrong and do much more harm than good. It's coming up right here on MidPoint.